All right. We are still talking about central angles and arc measures in circles. So, just to review what we talked about last time and a little bit of the stuff we did there. For numbers 1 and 2, it's asking us to find the measure of the arc or central angle indicated. Assume that lines which appear to be diameters are actually diameters. Okay, remember that a diameter goes from one side of the circle straight to the other side. Okay, so in number 1, it's asking us to find the measure of the arc YVX. Okay, well, let's identify what arc we're actually looking for. So it starts with Y. Okay, then it's going to go through V because V is in the middle, and it's going to end at X. Okay, meaning it's this entire arc right there. Okay, well, let's see what we know. So we know that central angles are equal to their arcs. Okay, so it gives us this central angle and that central angle. We have 46, that means that's 46. And that's 75, which means that's 75. Okay, well, what we need are these guys. Okay, we'll call this X, this piece right here. And then we need this guy, Y. Okay, so we need these two missing pieces in order to find the whole purple piece. Okay, so if we remember a few rules, we see that this diameter and that diameter create that X, and it actually is going to help us find one of the angles, which means one of the arcs we're looking for. Okay, remember, vertical angles are always right across from each other, okay, and they are always equal. So let's go ahead and write that on our paper just so we remember. Let's make a note. Okay, vertical angles are the angles right across from each other. It's just the symbol for angles. Equal each other, always. What that means for us is if this guy is 46, across from him, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little better. If this guy's 46, stop shaking, a little better, then that means this guy's 46. Okay, and if the angle is 46, that means the arc is 46. So we just found Y, we found that piece. Okay, so we still need X, we need this missing piece. Well, what we're going to do to find that is we see that we can cut this circle in half. Okay, well, if an entire circle is 360 degrees, in fact, let's make that note on our paper because that's super important. So an entire circle equals 360 degrees. Okay, that means that half the circle, a semicircle, is equal to 180 degrees, which is half of 360. Okay, well, we can use this information by only looking at half. Okay, so if this is half, meaning this whole half of the piece is 180, okay, that means that it's 180, take away 46, which will give us X. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and write that here. 180 minus the 46 that it gives us in that half of the circle is going to give us our X. Okay, well, we can just do that in a calculator or in your head. 180 minus 46, and we get X is equal to 134. Okay, that means that this is 134 degrees, which means our arc is 134 degrees. Okay, so we have all the pieces we need to find the whole measure of the arc. Okay, so we have 46, which was our Y because it was a vertical angle, plus 134 we just found, plus the 46 that it gave us, plus the 75 that it gave us, and that's going to give us our whole measure of the arc YVX, and we're just going to punch that all into our calculator. 46 plus 134 plus 46 plus 75, and I get 301 degrees. And there we go. Beautiful. Okay, let's look at number 2. Okay, so first identify what it's actually asking you to find. So we want to find the measure of the arc IMK. So we start at I, We go through M and we end at K. All right, so it's that arc right there. Okay, so let's see. We're missing a few pieces of information. So we know 40, it gave us this little piece of the arc, 40 degrees equals 40 degrees. Okay, well again, let's just call this X and this Y because we need this piece and that piece. But I can see again that we have some vertical angles, right? They create this X, one side is 75, which means the other side has to be 75. And boom, we found our X, 75. Okay, well now we need our Y in order to find the whole piece. Well, you can actually look at this a couple of ways. Okay, you can take that half of the circle, or you can take that half of the circle. Because guess what? It's 75 or 75. So we're basically doing the same thing. Okay, so again, half of the circle is 180 degrees. Well, if we take the whole half, 180, take away the piece it gives us, so subtract 75, we'll be able to find the missing piece. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. 180 minus 75, and this time it's going to give us our Y. That's that piece we're missing. Okay, so we have 180 minus 75, and we get Y is equal to 105 degrees. So if that's 105, that means our arc is 105. And now we have all the pieces we need to add them all together to find our entire arc. Okay, so we found 105 plus the 75 from the vertical angle plus the 40 that it gave us, and that's going to give us our whole measure of arc IMK. Just put this right into our calculator. 105 plus 75 plus 40, and that equals 220 degrees. And there we go. Beautiful. Okay, numbers 3 through 8, so the rest of our examples, it's not asking us to find the measure, it's actually asking us to solve for X. So you'll notice that there are some expressions with X thrown in here, and that's okay. We're going to use the same rules, okay, to help us solve for X. Okay, so again, it says assume that lines which appear to be diameters are actually diameters. Okay, so gives us a few pieces of information here. This is where my X is, so we definitely want to look at that, 9 plus 7X. Okay, the 55, I don't know if I'm gonna have to use that, but one thing I do see is again, diameter, diameter, with vertical angles, okay, angles that are right across from each other. Okay, well we know this arc is 65, that means its central angle is also 65. Since these are vertical angles, that's also 65. And guess what? Now we can take this angle, set it equal to the arc that it creates. Okay, so now we have 65 equals 9 plus 7X, and now there's an equation. We can actually solve for X. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at our side with our X. First thing I got to get rid of is this plus or positive 9. So I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. 65 minus 9 gives me 56. So I have 56 equals 7 times X. Okay, my last step is do the opposite of times by 7. Divide by 7. And X is equal to, remember you can switch sides, it doesn't matter, 56 divided by 7, which gives me X equals 8. Okay, so again, we didn't actually find the measure of that arc. Well, we kind of did, it was 65. But our actual answer should be solving for X. What number does that X represent? Okay, beautiful. Number 4. Okay, so first identify where your X is. It's this guy, and it's going to correspond with this arc and this angle. Okay, so let's see the information that it actually gives us. So it gives us this 68 and then this 61. What can I use? Well, I need either this central angle or this arc, but then it gives me an angle right next to it, 68. So what I can do, and we see that it creates this perfect half of our circle, which we know half of a circle equals 180 degrees. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this angle, which would also be this arc. We're going to add it to the arc with our x and set it equal to the whole degrees, which is 180. Okay, so I have 68 plus the expression that it gave me, 18x plus 4, because that arc plus that arc would equal 180 degrees. Okay, and now we can go ahead and solve for x. Okay, so I need to combine my like terms. 68 plus 4 is going to give me 72. So I get 72 plus 18x is equal to 180 still. Okay, well now I need to either get rid of my 72 or my 18. 72 is farthest, so we're going to subtract the 72 on both sides. We get 18x is equal to 180 minus 72, 108. Okay, and my last step, opposite of times by 18, is to divide by 18. So I get 108 divided by 18, x is equal to 6. And there we go. Okay, so that one, we weren't dealing with vertical angles that were equal to each other. We saw that this angle, or this arc, plus this angle, or that arc, added together gives me that 180, which will help me solve for x. Okay, number 5. Identify where your x is. That guy right there. Ooh, we actually have 2 x's here. 2 x's. Weird. Okay, so it's giving us an arc, okay, which also corresponds to that angle, and then that angle. Okay, well again, what is it giving us? What can we use? What are they equal to? Well, we know that that angle, or that arc, plus that angle or that arc, perfectly splits this circle in half, which we know half of a circle is 180 degrees. So we're actually going to take both of these expressions, add them together to give me that half of my circle, which is 180 degrees. Okay, so we have our first expression, x plus 65, plus our next expression, x plus 137. We know it equals half of our circle, 180. Okay, I need to combine like terms, so I can combine my x and my x. That's going to give me 2x. And my 65 plus 137 gives me 202, so plus 202. And it all still equals 180. Now we can go ahead and start solving for our x, moving things to the other side. Okay, so I need to get rid of plus 202 first. That's farthest from my x. So I subtract 202. So I get 2x is equal to 180 minus 202, negative 22. Okay, and my last step, opposite of times by 2, is going to be to divide by 2. And I get x is equal to negative 11. And you're going to be like, wait, Mrs. Campbell, how can it be a negative? There's no such thing as negative degrees. Okay, remember, this is not the measure. This is x. So if we were to plug x in, it would be negative 11 plus 137, which would give us a positive. Negative 11 plus 65, which would give us a positive. Okay, so our x is equal to negative 11. Beautiful. Okay, number 6. Ooh, it's giving us a lot of information. Let's see what we can use. Okay, so let's see here. There's our x. But then notice it actually gives us every other piece of the whole circle. We have 50 degrees, 55 degrees, 100 degrees, and then 120 degrees. Oh, so it's really giving us everything we would need for our circle. So on the last two, we've been cutting the circles in half because it's only given us that information. But on number 6, it's giving us everything for the circle. So what we're going to do is we're going to take everything that it gave us and add it up to the entire circle, which is 360 degrees. Okay, so it's going to be a lot of stuff, and that's okay. X plus 39, our expression, plus 120, let's just go around the circle, plus 100, plus 55, plus 50, and it all equals 360. Ran out of room there, that's okay. Okay, take everything and it all adds to 360 because it's the whole circle. So now we just need to combine like terms, which I only have one x. I just need to combine all of these numbers. Okay, so let's see what those add up to. So we got 39 plus 120 plus 100 plus 55 plus 50, and that equals 364. So we still have our x, 1x, plus 364 equals 360. Whoops, sorry, you might want to see what I'm writing. Okay, well now, this is just a one-step equation. There's only one thing I have to get rid of to get my x all by itself, and it's this plus 364. Okay, so do the opposite, subtract 364, and we get x is equal to 360 minus 364 gives us a -4. And again, you might think, well, how can I get a negative? There's no such thing as negative degrees. Remember, it's what we plug in for x. So this would be -4 plus 39 would give us that degree. Okay, not too bad. Let's do 2 more examples. Okay, number 7 and 8. So find the measure of the arc or central angle indicated. Assume that lines which appear to be diameters are actual diameters. Okay, so now we're not just solving for x. We're going to have to find x, but then it wants us to find the measure of the arc or central angle. So we're going to have to plug x back in, kind of like what we were talking about, just barely. Okay, so let's identify what it actually wants us to find. Wants us to find arc of TU. So TU, which this is where one of our x's are. And now let's see how we can find that x, because we're going to have to plug x in to actually find the measure of this guy. Okay, so it gives us this other expression, and then it gives us this little symbol, which if you don't remember what this little box symbol means, it means that this is 90 degrees, which means this arc is also 90 degrees. Okay, now let's look at the information that it's actually giving us. Okay, so it gave us that arc, and then that arc. Okay, well, altogether that gives us half of the circle. We know that half of the circle equals 180 degrees. So let's take every piece that it gave us and add it up to 180. 7x plus 1, our first expression, plus 90, plus 5x plus 5, and it all equals 180 because it's half of the circle. Okay, combine like terms, just like we've been doing. So I see 7x plus 5x, that's going to give me 12x. Then I have 1 plus 90 plus 5, it's going to give me plus 96, and it all still equals 180. Okay, now we can start solving for x. Remember, we're not actually trying to find x as our end answer. We're going to plug x back in. Okay, but I need to get rid of plus 96 first. It's going to be subtract 96 from both sides. 180 minus 96. 12x is equal to 84. Okay. Last step for getting x by itself, do the opposite of times by 12, which will be to divide by 12. And I get x is equal to 84 divided by 12, 7. But remember, this isn't our final answer. It's not asking us to find x. It's asking us to find the measure of the arc or central angle. In this case, it's arc TU. So we're going to take 7 and plug it in where we see the x. Okay, so now I have 7 times x, but now it's 7 times 7, because that's what we found for x, plus 1. Okay, 7 times 7 is going to give me 49. Plus 1 is 50. So we write our final answer. The measure of arc TU is equal to 50 degrees. Okay, so we had to find x using all those steps, plug x back in to find the measure. Awesome job. Let's do that one more time. So this time, last example, it wants us to find the measure of angle KFJ. So start at K, this time it's an angle. K, go to F, and then, G, excuse me. G right there. Okay, so it wants us to find this angle, which corresponds with that arc. Okay, so whatever we plug x in for this arc is also going to be that angle. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what it gives us. Okay, so it gives us this expression, that guy, this expression, and then 100. So again, it's giving us pieces to make up the whole circle. So instead of adding it all up to 180, half of the circle, we're going to add them all up to 360. Okay, so let's just go around the circle. Let's start with 10x plus 9 plus 9x plus 7x plus 6 plus 22x plus 5. I'm going to run out of room. That's okay. Plus 100, and it all equals the whole circle, 360 degrees. Okay, looks super long, but all we got to do is combine like terms. So combine our x's first. 10x plus 9x plus 7x plus 22x. Okay, we can just put that in a calculator. Don't stress. 10 plus 9 plus 7 plus 22. That's going to give us 48x. 48x. Okay, now combine your constants. 9 plus 6 plus 5 plus 100. 9 plus 6 plus 5 plus 100 gives me 120. And again, it all still equals 360, but it looks much nicer, much smaller, right? So now we can start solving for x. Okay, so on my side with my x, the first thing I got to get rid of is plus 120, so we do the opposite, minus 120. So I get 48x left over here equals 360 minus 120, gives me 240. Okay, last step for solving for x is going to be the opposite of times by 48. Divide by 48. So I get x is equal to 240 divided by 48. I'm doing it in a calculator. I get x is equal to 5. Now remember, that's not what we were actually trying to solve for, meaning that's not our final answer. We have to take 5 and plug it in where we need to. Well, there are a lot of x's, but this is the only one that matters, okay? Because that's our angle we're looking for. So we're going to plug it into that x right there. So now we have 10 times x. Now it's 10 times 5 plus 9. Okay, well 10 times 5 is 50. 50 plus 9 is 59. So easy peasy, we know that the measure of angle KFJ, why do I keep saying J? KFG is equal to 59 degrees. And there's our final answer. I know that's a lot of steps, but those are your notes. Feel free to rewind. There's an assignment that goes with it.